No matter your age, your plan for retirement can start today. From the News Channel 5 Network, this is the Retirement Report.
Good morning. Welcome to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host. And again, we're going to be celebrating the 40th anniversary of IRAs this week. Today, we've talked about IRAs in the last few weeks. We've talked about how IRAs can be of benefit to you, how you can take money from them, how IRAs are set up, how they're different from retirement plans like 401ks, TSP, the Thrift Savings Plan available to government employees in the military, 457s, 403bs, all the different types of IRAs that are out there, such as SEPs and Simples and the rest, and all the different complexities of rules that go with those. Now again, they've been around. It's about 40 years now since IRAs were first came into being with the enactment of ERISA back in 1974. It was signed into law, in fact, on Labor Day of 1974. And with that was the creation of IRAs and allowing people to put money into those accounts. Now we get into a point when we talk about retirement, that's the money we're going to need for income. So remember the commercials you see where the people are walking around, it's these big numbers, right? You get that big number under your arm or sitting there, and you know, they ask the question, what's your number? You know, what do you need to save up? How much do you need to have saved to have enough in retirement to retire on? And the reality is that's not really the question. The question is, how much income are you going to need, and what sources for that income do you have available? Now we look at your, Social Security, if you're going to have a pension, if you're going to continue to work possibly after you retire, maybe on a part-time basis, or have other income sources like rental properties. We want to weigh all those things. Then we want to see what you're going to what you're going to need to take, that is, from your retirement accounts. How much is going to have to come out of there? What's that distribution rate going to be? We've got to allow for taxes and inflation, so that income has to be able to go up over your retirement years to be able to maintain your standard of living and quality of life. Maybe you want to have fund money, added into that, go over what you're currently spending for your standard of living. So all of these things we take into consideration when we do an income analysis, and we're going to be talking also about other things. Maybe you may inherit an IRA, or maybe you're going to be leaving money that you're not going to use to the next generation, and they're going to have an inherited IRA, and we're going to be talking about all the rules around inherited IRAs and how they differ as well, and estate planning in general. So with me this week is my good friend and special guest, Russ Cook, with Russ Cook and Associates over in Brentwood, Tennessee. Russ is a board-certified estate planning attorney. He's been with us a number of times on the show. Of course, I've been working with Russ now for, it's over 10 years, Russ.
Yeah, I think it has been, and thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
So we've been working with, with my clients. One of the things, finding someone who really understands estate planning, taxes, estate taxes, and the like. And when it gets into some of the things we're going to be talking about today, asset protection is another part of that. So before we do, though, I want to offer up one of the things that Russ has been gracious enough to do is that normally if you go into Russ's office to see him or call us, get a consultation, there's going to be a fee to meet with him. Okay, his time's very valuable, and as I said, he's a board certified estate planning attorney, one of the few in the state that can, with that distinction. It's the only law he practices in his office is that to do with estate planning, probate, inheritance taxes, estate taxes, that type of thing. So from that standpoint, it's great to have that expertise available. And for those of you that want to take advantage of it, if you'd like to, this week, for the first 10 callers to my office, we're going to offer a free income analysis that's going to include the IRAs. And with that, in Chapter 7 of my book is the 7 Steps to Financial Freedom in Retirement. That's on estate planning. Russ was gracious enough also to review that chapter and endorse it. So what we're going to do is this. If you'd like to come into my office, meet with me, get that retirement income analysis, we'll send you out the packet of information and a copy of my book, and we'll set up a meeting. And then as a part of that, I can have Russ come to the meeting and meet with us about estate planning and go over your specific situation when it comes to estate planning, and he'll do that at no charge to you. All right, so for the first 10 callers to call my office, the number is 376 5325. You'll be able to take advantage of that, all right? Okay, now we're going to be, Russ, one of the things, let's talk about some of the changes for starters, because I'm going to get into inherited IRAs, and it was a recent ruling this past year with the Supreme Court that changed the way inherited IRAs are treated. So we've been talking about for years that we kind of saw this coming. We were watching it go through the courts. Now we know what's actual law.
There have been changes in the estate tax arena as far as inherited IRAs are concerned, because they're now subject to the creditor claims of the beneficiaries. It used to be that when you set up an IRA and you allowed for it to go to your beneficiaries at death, typically the beneficiary would inherit that IRA and they would get the same asset protection that you got as to that IRA during your life. But now the Supreme Court has made it clear that inherited IRAs are not protected from the creditor claims of clients. And that's where we're seeing the focus with estate planning in general these days, is asset protection. So that's something you want to be careful of.
And I've got to say, this is one of the areas that we've been working with clients now for many, many years ahead of this ruling. And just the IRAs had the protection. We thought there's always that possibility it could go away, but also the fact that in addition to estate taxes, which now have become less of a concern, inheritance taxes, which we'll talk more about those changes too, but there's the asset protection feature, whether it's IRAs, inherited IRAs that is, or even just your general assets, okay, whatever you're leaving to your heirs, a way that you can protect them against lawsuits, against problems with the IRS, against problems with bankruptcy, and this is one that both of these are really tricky. And then of course divorce, the possibility that the in-law becomes an outlaw. So all of that, they might lose everything else. In other words, you may lose your children, let's say you're leaving money to them, they may lose everything else that of their own personal assets, but what you leave them can be protected if left in trust and if it's done appropriately. And this is real important too. And Russ, why don't you talk a little bit, because this is one of the areas, it's the language of the trust. You can't just go to these online create your own document kind of legal document. I wouldn't advise that.
No, not with respect to inherited IRAs, because the focus, and that's just kind of the theme of the estate planning arena these days, is asset protection. It used to be that people would get estate planning done to help avoid inheritance taxes, but right now with the exemptions so high, Tennessee has decided to get rid of their inheritance tax come 2016, that asset protection is pretty much on the forefront. And when it comes to trusts that are going to own inherited IRAs, which is the best way for you to pass an inherited IRA to a beneficiary, you want to make sure that the trust has the proper language so that it will be considered a see-through entity. And what I mean by that is that you want the measuring life for determining the required minimum distributions from the IRA to be the life of the beneficiary of the trust, and not necessarily have it go directly to the trust and not have that availability, because then you're paying the tax on it all at once.
There you go. And this is one of the areas in law that the point of that is, of course, you personally are not going to go out and write your own document, right? So you need to be with someone, a board-certified estate planning attorney, someone that really understands estate planning and how these rules work. So in the drafting of your documents, the proper language is in there. Now, there's some other very important and complex rules when it comes to inherited IRAs, that knowing these rules, okay, or working with advisors that know them to, help you with this, can help save, potentially thousands, maybe tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes that you would, in fact, be able to keep in your family instead of going out to the IRS. So we're going to talk about those rules when we come back. So join us here. We'll be right back on the Retirement Report.